Ed here. Welcome to another edition of Lessons from My Mentor. This one goes back to Tom Zenti. When I was everyone knows the story of my aspiration to become a CIO, and that's where I first became a CIO thanks to Kevin Roberts, the CFO, and Tom Zenti, the CEO. And one of the things I learned from him was to cultivate that informal network. So obviously everyone knows about the formal network with your peers, things like that. But what will save the day is having a strong informal network. So how do you do it? So I want to be super practical. And these are the things that he taught me as well as others along the way. One is you got to be available. You got to make time for people. So there's different ways of doing this. Shared some of these before in different contexts, but I did this thing called Wine with Ed, spelled WHINE. And so basically every Wednesday night or whatever night works for you, it happened to be super convenient at this one health system where I served, where it was attached to a hotel, which had a great restaurant and a great lobby and a great place for entertaining. And so everyone knew after hours, Ed's going to be there, have some wine or whatever you drink, could be water, and just talk about what's on your mind. I met so many clinicians and other operators in that environment and learned so many things. I could have never replicated because it's not going to happen in a meeting because they probably won't be at that meeting. Or even if they are, the meeting's going to be about the agenda, not what, this informal chit chat. And so it was great in terms of meeting more people, broadening the network. And then I've met people that would later become super influential in something that we were doing within tech. So it's really important. Another one was Walk with Ed. So again, people walk on their rounds and things like that. And our health system was super connected by super long hallways. I can tell you how many steps I got in on a daily basis because of that. And so it's like Walk with Ed. So I knew what time they rounded at 6 a.m., right? So Friday mornings, hey, 6 a.m., Ed's available to round with you and basically walk with Ed was the message there. Then there was the importance of residents, right? I worked at a lot of academic medical centers. So I did this at a couple different academic medical centers. So I always wanted to get the residents, right? Because residents typically younger in age. And so different generation. And so I needed to learn from them. And I didn't want to be detached and wanted to, these were the future leaders as well. So it's like, this is great. So I was very intentional about making myself available at resident meetings. I'd find out where they hang out. And then we would do fun things, that residents might like to do that maybe older established clinicians, already had families and other obligations weren't able to do. So we would do fun things after hours, a lot of things percolate in my mind, but I'm like super careful about what I share on that particular topic. But you can use your imagination, just have fun, go out there and hang out with them. That's the whole point of what we're talking about here. The other thing I would do all the time is every time I met with the formal leaders, I would ask them, hey, who are 2 or 3 people I should meet that are in your division, that are in your department, that are, clinicians, or again, you could be operators as well. I did it with operators, but largely clinicians. And, who can I, learn from, hang out with? So I get 2 or 3 names. Now, imagine this. You ask, depends on the size of your organization, but, 25 to 50 formal leaders for 2 to 3 people, that's over 100. And, you got to pace yourself a little bit. But I met with all these people. Not only did I learn something that I could immediately apply, but realize these people might become people of influence in the future. So having that network, and then if you create allies below the surface, so when things don't work out super well with the formal leader, right? They might be mad about something or some decision, but they've got the informal leaders here that they told you to go meet with and develop relationship with, telling them another story or supporting you. Game changer. And that's how I did well throughout my career as a CIO, is by cultivating this informal network, because it's as important or more important than the formal network. I'm going to give you 2 examples of how this worked brilliantly. It just so happened to work. So they said, hey, you should talk to Mark. I won't use their last name. This was Texas Health. People, Texas Health will recognize who this person is. But Mark was just a family physician. And so I started using him as my family physician. He had an interest in tech. I was like, hey, we're doing this EHR, doing this stuff, want to be involved. And he got involved. And then he became this ally. And then we made him like co-chair of the governance, IT governance. And then from there, he went on to like lead the CMO, chief medical officer, and become a board member. So imagine that. I had this relationship with this person before they ever became a board member, and what it did for IT. I mean, oh, it's so obvious. And again, you're not doing it. You're not trying to manipulate that. Who knew that that was going to happen? You're doing it for the right reasons. But I'm just telling you that that's sort of the things that happen. Maybe it's not they don't become a board member, but they're going to become someone of influence more than likely. The second person, his name's George. I guys just got recently reconnected to George. So this was directly from Tom Zenti. So again, I got George, so I had him as my PCP, and he was just family physician, great guy. And I'm like, hey, you want to, help us with IT stuff, and a relationship developed. And he then now he's like dean of a medical school. It's just crazy how this all works. And so now he's a super, super influential person. Now, it would have been hard for me to connect with him at that level, but because we connected down at this level, it all works. And so, again, it may not be that extreme, the two examples I just gave you, but it could be. But if you meet with 100 people, that's what I'm telling you, meet with 100 people on the informal side that don't have a position of authority, that are just, there day in, day out, will give you honest opinions, just good people. Cultivate those relationships, work those relationships, share, invite them in. If they have an interest in tech, invite them in, like the examples I gave, and they could become like significant leaders, and then might become formal leaders. I think on the operations side too, I know I'm giving you clinical examples, but there's another operator who was operator of a small, I don't even know if she was in charge of a hospital when we first met up, but she ultimately was in charge of a super small hospital, and in the big thing of things in a big health system, you had your giant hospitals, super small ones. It's like some people may say, I'm not going to, spend any time there. But no, I was like, I treat everyone equally. And again, I understand the importance of these informal networks. And then she now is the COO of this health system. So you never know. And it's the same with, if you meet the CNOs of all your hospitals and you ask them, hey, 2-3 people, 2-3 nurses, they'll eventually become CNOs maybe, and people of influence, people are going to help you. And then all these inputs help you along the way. That's the key here. It's like, that's going to make you better. Plus, you've got that network that's going to support you. They're going to be your early warning signal. They're going to be the canary in the coal mine. Oftentimes, like, Ed, are you sure about this? Like you tell them. They may hear something, or you proactively tell them, hey, we're thinking about X, Y, Z. And you're going to hear from people who legit are going to be impacted on a daily basis and give you super sound feedback. It's like, you can't buy that. And if you rely strictly on that formal network, which is what most people do, right? If I'm in the C-suite, I'm thinking my team are my peers, which is true, absolutely true. But if I solely rely on that, I could be in a little bit of trouble. I could get blindsided. I could get, again, yes, surprised, or I may not be hearing reality. So in addition to your main team, yes, absolutely, C-suite, my main team all the time. But in addition to that, having that informal, it's a game changer. I'm telling you, it's not hard. Again, if you don't know who the people are, you just ask the formal leaders, hey, who are 2-3 people? Do the math, get over 100 people over the course of a year, meet with all 100, stay in touch with them. You could have your informal sort of advisory committee. Some people will take that and create something more formal out of the informal, which is good too. Like maybe you find a dozen people that are super helpful and you meet with them on a regular basis, like have dinner. Hey, once a month, let's go have dinner and let's just chat. That is good as well. All sorts of things you can do. The important thing is you do them and if you say to yourself, I can hear it now. Well, I don't have time to do that. I'm so busy. Well, then I would challenge you, like, what are you spending your time on? Because maybe there's some things that you're doing that are IT focused that you could give to one of your subordinates to do. And that frees up time, because it's all about these relationships. You got to trust, hire the right people, hire the right subordinates to carry the work of tech, so you can focus on the relationships and the strategy. And that's really the key to success.